Hello, hello, hello. I have some interesting material for you today. We are going to review contracts and we're going to talk about closing costs and what you need to know when you purchase a home here in the Villages, Florida. My name is Robyn Cavallaro. I am a realtor here in the state of Florida. I specialize in the Villages. If you would like to buy or sell, I am an expert buyer's agent. Obviously, I have a lot of buyers, but also I have a bunch of listings coming up. So it's a super exciting time right now. If you want to get on board, let's take a look at contracts. I know. I've been dreading this. It's just like a monster type of video for me to do, but we're going to get right into it now. Visit my website at robyncavallaro.com and you can begin your home search. You can search by section, whether it's Marion County, south of 44, between the sixes. It also allows you to select number of bedrooms, price range, or you can search the Villages as a whole. You will get email notifications when a home price has been reduced. You also can select a market update for this section, as well as any open houses that are taking place when you might be in town. To check your email, you will get text messages and emails with me with notes. I've made some videos in the notes to keep you up to date on things that are going on. You want to give me a call? I am an expert here in the Villages, Florida, and your buyer's agent. Back to the regularly scheduled program. We have two types of contracts. We have an as-is contract, which you see here, and then we have the standard contract, which we're going to talk about because the Villages uses a form of the standard contract, but they have their own, the as-is contract. Important things you need to know when we're going to write up a contract. We need to know who's purchasing the contract. Are you purchasing it individually? Is it part of a trust? Those things are very important. If it's part of a trust, you need to have the documentation because a title company will look for that. Buyer seller. Basic information. We put in here the street address. Obviously, I'm going to glaze over some of this because it's just redundant, typical information. Property that's included in the purchase. So here's where I will always add the washer dryer to make sure that that is included if it does convey with the home. If it doesn't convey with the home, I'm going to put it here in section E, does not convey. Obvious things that are included in the home, I put this here so there's no misunderstanding. And I'm talking about what I do. I don't know what other realtors do, but this is my process. What you need to know about turnkey. If you're financing your home, banks do not like to see turnkey or anything listed in here that would indicate you're purchasing furniture. Because although it has zero value, they don't like to see that. So we'll usually put that on a separate addendum. This is, basic information, price, who the title company is, how much down money you're going to put, your escrow deposit. Please read through that and understand and know how much money that you're putting down. When the seller needs to accept, is this time for acceptance in number 3? And again, with that standard contract, this is basically some of the same information, and I'll get into the differences in a little bit. Closing date. Make sure you know when you want to close, especially. So if you put a closing date down and you need to change it for whatever reason, if you're the buyer, the seller does not have to agree to that. Just so you know, you can't just say, oh, put 2 weeks and then decide I want to do it in 6 weeks and expect them to accept. So get a good handle on when you want to close. Cash, we can close in 10, 12 days. It's just as quick as we can get, the title company can do the title search. Financing usually will need about 4 weeks because then there's an appraisal and a survey. It could be up to 6 weeks, but pretty much I'm seeing about 30 days, 4 weeks. What you need to understand about financing, okay? If you are cash, we indicate that here where it says cash, no financing contingency. Okay, so with cash sales, If the offer's accepted, once in an as-is contract, you go through your inspection because that's your time you can get out, and we'll get into that because that's a little further down in the contract. Once you go through inspection, it's smooth sailing in theory. It's smooth sailing until, oh, my package was delivered about an hour ago. I have a big cabinet. A friend of mine put the smaller one together this weekend, and now he's got a project for next week. All right, anyway, so the cash sale is once you go through the inspection, you're just waiting to close. And if there isn't a problem with title after that inspection period, there isn't really a way for you to get out without losing your deposit money. So just be careful of that when you are negotiating your contract. And once you get through inspection, I had somebody try to get out of a contract 4 weeks in, and they would have lost their money. It ended up all working out well, and they're very happy, but it's not so easy to get out of a contract once you already entered into it. All right, so this is the contract based on financing contingency. So financing contingency is however you're going to finance the home. It means that if your financing falls through, the contract is dead. You're out of contract. You get your money back because there is a contingency for financing. There's a contingency for inspection. Within if your loan is denied, you have to provide that to the seller in writing that your loan's been denied, so you get out of the contract and you get your money back. All right, so one thing you need to know about financing and a home sale contingency: if you have to sell your home, and that is typically in your pre-approval letter, it'll say you're pre-approved for whatever, $400,000, but it's based on the sale of your home. So you, in essence, in theory, have a home sale contingency built into, because your financing is going to fall through. If you have to sell a home and you're financing, I would still put a financing contingency. If you have to sell a home, I would still add a home sale contingency into this agreement, because just in case your loan gets approved and you still haven't sold your home, you can still be liable for the home purchase. And if you have to back out, you would lose your deposit money. So if any of this is unclear, because I'm really just going to I don't want to get into too many details because everyone's eyes will glaze over, please give me a phone call. I'll be happy to answer any questions about the financing portion of the contract and what that means. And I'm not here to give you advice on how to get out of a contract. That is not the purpose of this video. It is so you understand the types of contracts that are written here and what you can expect, and how to make yourself a smart and more educated buyer. So please don't call me and ask me how to get out of your contract, because that is not what I do. Just basic information on what the seller has to pay. Typically, if there is a transaction fee, this is where you will find it. I put mine here. This is my company, what they charge. When we're expecting title, in Florida, here in Central Florida, the seller designates the closing company, the title company, and they pay for the title insurance. Now, you can pay for the title insurance as the buyer. You select the title company, but you will pay for title. And I mean, it depends on the size, the price of the home. It could be $800, it could be $3,000. But that is up to you. You do have that option. If you go into a contract with the home and say, I don't want to use ABC title, I want to use XYZ because it's my relative. Well, you're entitled to do that, but you will have to pay for the closing costs. Okay, so that's something important to know. If the home comes with a warranty, sometimes you'll see it in the language of the contract that a warranty is available. This is where we would check it. I'm not, like I said, I really just want to talk about this, and then I want to talk about the right to inspect, because that's the big difference between this as-is contract and the standard contract. In an as-is contract, you have whatever we put in here, up to 15 days to have the property inspected, and you can back out for whatever reason within that time frame. Doesn't matter. You could have woke up that morning and had no coffee and you're like, I don't want to buy this house, and you'll get your money back. The standard contract is different, and that is primarily what's used here in the Villages, not the as-is. You will find an as-is contract used here if the home's older and it needs a lot of work, because in the other contract, the seller has to make the repairs at that, and getting out of it are the two big differences. So we'll review that contract next. So here is your 10-day. We usually put 10 days. I have, sometimes they ask for 7. It doesn't matter. I work with a couple of inspectors. One inspector I use a lot. He's there within a couple of days, and he will have you the report within, like, we just wrote up a contract yesterday, which was Saturday, and he'll be there Tuesday morning. So that's not a problem. 7 days, 5 days, but we usually put 10. Sometimes the seller wants to negotiate that. Whatever, it works. And all this really fun language, which again, I'm not going to go through line by line because I will put half of you to sleep, including myself, but I've read this numerous times. And then here are all the different addendums that we have the opportunity to send along with the contract, and we check them off, like housing for older persons. This is where I'll put the CDD and the seller's disclosure. If you have to sell your home, sell the buyer's property. If you're VA, FHA financing, we click that and we add that addendum as well. And then the contract goes for signature. All right. These are all the contracts that I have and addendums that I have saved that go into most of my buyers' snapshot. But here is the residential contract for sale and purchase. Now, again, this is primarily what's used in the Villages. And it doesn't want to. Okay, this is the residential contract for sale and purchase, and primarily what's used in the Villages. So this is why a lot of the MLS realtors have adopted and used this contract over an as-is. Now, all of the beginning of the contract is the same language. What's included, what's not included, the purchase price, the escrow deposit, the title company, how long they have to accept the offer, when the closing date is, how you're going to finance it, those types of things. But here we get down to closing costs are paid by the seller. Again, who it's paid by the buyer. Seller designates the title company, any assessments, but we're going to get down here to the inspection period. Okay. Closing costs and fees and charges paid for by the seller. Now, this is where this standard contract differs from an as-is. With an as-is contract, you're bound to that contract, but the seller is required to pay up to 1.5%, if you see here, in general repairs for items that are broken, unless they specify a specific amount or percentage, which they will put here. I typically, with my listing, if my seller wants to limit the amount of money they'll spend on repairs, I put it in the realtor's notes. I don't like when I submit a contract and we make a good faith offer and then it comes back, well, we'll accept your offer, but we don't want to pay for, well, I want to make $1,000 of repairs, whatever. And to be honest with you, I really haven't seen anything come back astronomical, but I like to know that up front. So I will put that in my contract. But so this is where the seller has to pay to repair anything that's broken and make any WDO repairs or pay for permit closeouts. And we go down further here and it is going to tell you, so that's section 9. Next, we go into section 12. And this is where we put how many days you have to inspect. And then this will provide the terms of what the seller is required to pay. And I'm not going to get into all the details. If you have questions, please call me, but this is just an overview so you are understanding this type of contract and what that means to you. So just real quick, inspector goes in and the garbage disposal isn't working, is broken. They have to repair it. The screens are ripped. They have to repair it. There's a cosmetic crack in the ceiling. Like I have it in my home just from settlement. It's not structural. Some inspectors will put that they need it monitored, but it really is cosmetic. Sometimes the seller will fix it, sometimes they won't. And really, they're just going to paint over it. And, it depends on how bad it is. You may know if you want to get an engineer to come in and look to see if the structure is sound, but that's completely up to you. The roof is old, not covered in this type of contract. In this contract, the roof is old, it's not broken. It's just old. The roof leaks, that's another story. The hot water heater leaks. That has to be repaired. I just had that come in an inspection, and the seller had to replace the hot water heater because it leaked. It was old, but it leaked. So they had to repair it. So this is what's going to tell you all of the things that have to be repaired and paid for by the seller in this contract. Now, if you get that contract back, then there's, I don't know, like 35 things that need to be repaired, but they're still under the 1.5% of the sale price of the home, you have to continue with the contract. If you're not happy with it, you can back out, but you will lose your deposit money. So it's all protecting your deposit money. So you definitely want to take and think about that. Wood destroying organisms, same thing. You are entitled, regardless of the contract, to do a walkthrough inspection. So typically what happens is we get a list of all the repairs that need to be made. We send it, the buyer sends it to the seller's agent. Seller's agent takes it to their seller and says, okay, these items need to be repaired. They get whomever, contractor or handyman, to make the repairs. They have to provide photographic evidence that it was repaired and a paid receipt. And then I take that when I go through the final walkthrough and make sure that everything checks out. But I have not had really a problem with any of the things being repaired. So you're still in good hands. It's just something you need to think about, not that you need to worry about. All right. And then it just talks about defaults, who's responsible, what you have to pay, what you don't have to pay. Yes. So read through your contract and sign it. We use a title company here in Florida. We don't use an attorney. But if you want an attorney to review a contract, you are absolutely entitled to do that. It'll be at your own expense. The seller will not pay for that. We do not have legal teams. We have our board has legal for realtors to talk about contract issues, but not for the buyers or the sellers to consult about their specific contract, just basic contract in general. And I've used them often to make sure that if we're in some type of negotiation or the listing agent and the buyer's agent don't agree, that we get our legal department to clarify the contracts. And then the same here, we have signature. All right, so that is all about the contract here in Florida. If you have any questions about that, call me, text me, email me. And next, we're going to look at closing statement. That's going to be fun. All right, let's get to it. All right, so let's get into closing costs. What I'm going to show you are side-by-side images of closing statements. One will be a closing statement from a financed transaction, and actually it was split, but for this purpose this is fine. And one for 100% cash, so you can see the difference that you have to bring to the table if you're finance or cash. And also both of these have the seller side on there, so you can see what the seller is responsible for if you're watching this and you want to know what it would cost you to list your home and to sell it. Okay, so here we go. First off, we are going to start off with all right, so here on the right was the cash finance, it was a split, 50-50. The one on the left was 100% cash. And it really doesn't matter the bank or whatever. Well, I should say it does matter. If you're financing, every lender will have different charges, different fees, and they will also have a different structure if you're paying points, if you're buying points down, that kind of thing. That is all specific to your individual transaction, so you can't use that here. But just so you know, these are some types of fees that you will incur if you are using financing options. So we'll go to the left first off, and they're both kind of similar in price. We'll talk about the cash sale. Cash sale is very inexpensive when it comes to closing costs because there are no filing fees, there are no lender fees, so everything is pretty basic and upfront depending on the time of year that you close, how much money you might get a credit for taxes or a bond. So here, let's talk about this first. In Florida, the taxes, the property tax, which they call the ad valorem tax, it's based on the value of your home, is paid in arrears, which means it's paid after you've already used it. So at closing table, your seller will end up giving you money for the time that they've occupied the home, but you will pay the tax bill when it comes. So you need to know that, you know, if you close in the beginning of the year, that transaction will be, or that dollar figure will be small because the seller had not occupied the property for very long. If it's at the end of the year, that number will be larger. You will get that credit at closing, but you will owe the tax bill when it comes. So keep that in mind, because I know people get a shock. What do you mean I owe the tax bill? It's like, well, you got a credit at closing, and now you owe the rest of that money. The bond and the CDD, though, are paid ahead. So if you close, let's say in January, February, March, the seller has probably already paid their bond and CDD for the year. So you are going to owe them money. Well, it doesn't matter when you close, but you are going to owe them money in return because they've already paid the bill for which you've occupied. So it's the opposite of the property tax. If you have questions about that, I don't want to get too much in the weeds about that, but just give me a call. All right, so let's look to the left. You're going to see here we have the seller side and we have the buyer side. The transaction was $370,000. The buyer put $5,000 in escrow. That's the money we sent after we had the contract signed over to the title company. This $18.25 assessment, that's for the CDD. This home had no bond. So that's the amount they owed for 4 days of the CDD because that was October to October, and they purchased this property at the end of September. The county taxes are, this is, they always have to balance. This is a basic balance sheet, but the buyer received a credit of $1,964 to pay the tax bill, because when you close in any year, you will be, now if you close later in the year, you're a whole year into the previous owner's tax bill. And this is where it gets a little confusing, so you might want to call me to get clarification on this if it's not clear in this video. If you close in the beginning of the year, the county will have had time to record your sale. So at the end of the year, you could owe money even though you had a credit, because they're going to now recalculate your taxes based on your sell price. So just keep that in mind. If you close, I don't know, it can take the county maybe 2 months sometimes to file the transaction. So if you're going to close from June, the beginning of, from January, let's just say June-ish, that's not, 100%, you may see an increase. You'll be taxed on your own tax for that specific property. I hope that makes sense. Questions you can put in the comments below or call me. All right. So that's about property taxes. I really don't want to get into in-depth. This is kind of an overview of what you can expect. So now we're going to go down to title insurance. So in Florida, the seller pays the title insurance for the transfer. That means that they are transferring you a home that's free and clear of title. There are instances where the buyer would pay, and that's because the selling agent, the listing agent, selects the title company, typically one that they've worked with in the past. The seller selects the title company and they pay for it. If you, the buyer, decide I want to use this title company, well, you're more than likely, or you're more than able to do that. It's just you would be responsible for the title insurance policy to pay for that. I know I have an investor that I work with, and every one of his transactions, he pays the title because he wants the title work done by a certain company that he has a very long-standing relationship with. So that does happen, but it's not too often where the buyer is going to choose the title company and pay for the title insurance. So the big ticket items in Florida real estate transaction in Central Florida are the title policy, it'll be the doc stamp, the transfer tax, and the realtor commission, all paid for by the seller. And those charges are listed out on the sheet. Now, if you're the buyer, you will not see this type of sheet. You're only going to see your transactions. Because I'm the realtor, I see both sides, and I'm showing you both sides with the personal information omitted. But just to expect, you're not going to see the seller side of the transaction. Each insurance, or my God, why did I say that? Realtors, each brokerage will have its own transaction fee, and that all depends on the company. It is brokerage specific. All right, here, title search fee, you'll see title settlement fee. Now, this is the fee that affiliated charges. And we'll look on the other. I don't know. Let's see here. Every sheet looks a little bit different. Where is the... All right, they call it a title fee on the left, and they call it a closing fee with this title company that did this sale. So you see, there's always a difference in the fee to the title company. This one here charges $450, and this one charges $545. And then there's a title search fee. You see this fee, they charged $195, and this company only charged $85. So those fees are going to be a little bit different for each company. Okay. So transaction fees, transfer tax. This is the on the sale that goes to the county that the seller pays. So you can see that's on a $370,000 house, it was $2,600. Again, the seller will pay for that. Sorry, it's coffee hour. It's actually in the afternoon. What time is it now? Obviously, you can see I did this on different days. It's 5:30 in the afternoon, and I need a little Java Jolt. See now on this side, on the buyer's side, this transaction, now this again, the one on the left is cash, the one on the right is cash and finance. So they are still going to incur finance fees. Here's the tax bill. This closed in August, the one on the right, and the one on the left closed in September. And I tried to, pick kind of close so you can see where they are as far as tax and assessment. Now, this is 2 months worth of the non-ad valorem. They call it a tax here, but it's an assessment. This home did have a bond and a CDD fee. Here you'll also see this is where if you're financing your points, application fee, the lender fee, credit report, all of the fees that are charged for by the lender that you don't have in a cash transaction. All right, let's go to the next page. And this one here on the right obviously is a lot longer. This was financed. So there's a lien search fee, the recording fee. This one here, I forget if they put the homeowners. No, they didn't collect homeowners. So now, okay, so now you'll see here where it has the homeowners insurance. They collected money. They collected 3 months worth because this is finance. So your lender will collect homeowners insurance and taxes if indeed they require you to escrow that. Now, sometimes lender will, depending on the equity or your financial status, they will allow you to not escrow your taxes and insurance, and you just get the bill and pay it. But here, I keep wanting to say insurance. The bank is going to collect that and pay that bill. Where on the cash side, you're responsible, doesn't matter. And you can see they took a year's worth of taxes, and this tax is going to be based on the new sale price of that transaction. And then all of the other little liens and fees that the title company charges. So now this one, you'll see the closing fee on the sell side, the closing fee on the buyer side. This is the title insurance for this was $2,100. And if we look, we'll just scroll back up here. The title insurance on this property was $1,925, and it's based on the price. This home was $370. The one on the right was $405. Of course, then you have your real estate commissions. Transaction fees, again, different from buy side and sell side. My company, they actually charge $175 transaction fee, and that goes to my broker. The recording fees. So now that where with a cash sale, you don't have the recording of the mortgage, so you don't have to pay the fees for that. Here, you'll see on this transaction, this was the transfer tax for the seller. The transfer tax over here is $25.90 and $28.35. Clearly the difference in the sale price of the home. But also, if you're financing, you are responsible for filing of, not you personally, but the bank files on your behalf. They record the deed and they record, they record the mortgage or the note. And so you incur these additional fees. This is the homeowner's insurance premium. This was on the sell side. This was a lien search fee. Then with a finance, you will get an appraisal and a survey. The bank requires that. Now, when you're cash, you can get an appraisal and a survey and pay for that if you choose to do so. But most times with cash transactions, we don't see an appraisal or a survey. And for the most part, the villages, I mean, the properties don't move. I would absolutely get a survey if you're going to go put a pool in and you want to make sure you're putting that bad boy within your property line. But for the most part, when you're purchasing the property, you can do it or you don't have to. It's up to you. So here is where it's very interesting, where things start to change. So if you see here, amenity fee to the villages district, and you also see it, where did it go? Here. It's pretty, so this is the sell side, and then this is the buy side. This is the sell side, and this is the buy side. Now, I'm not sure why, but this was south of 44, the one on the right. The one on the left was that in Sunset Point? It was up near Sumter Landing. The seller's 449.81, 448.64. That's prorated water, sewer, amenity fee, and the trash for the seller. That's pretty consistent. Now here, this trash, water, sewer, amenity is different on the buy side, and I see this, it's at $211 or $312 because they collect $100 for the postal. Now, the title company gets a notice where they alert the villages so they know, hey, we have a closing and I need and it's like an estoppel like you would get from a homeowners association. But there's no homeowners association, but the villages has to balance out when they close. So when you, the buyer, you pay 1 month in closing, this $211 is the amenity fee and 1 month trash. But this other one is the amenity fee, 1 month trash, and the postal. They charge you $100 for the mailbox. That they give you the keys, and if you're lucky, you have 3 keys, because people were issued 3 keys. Now, I've been to transactions where they have 1 key, where they have 2 keys. I just have one that had 3. And then I have some, they don't know where the postal keys are. So that is very interesting. And I'm going to dig a little deeper in that because I want to know why some are 211 and one are some 312. That makes no sense to me. But that's the situation here. This technology fee, this is a title company fee. And there's a notary here. So this was $200 because the buyer was out of state and they had to send a mobile notary because this was finance. Now, when you're cash, you don't need a mobile notary. You can just e-sign and you're done with it. You wire your money. But when you're finance, you actually have to have someone come and notarize the documents, and it can't just be any notary. They have to have experience with mortgage and lending. So that's what that additional fee is. That's all I have for contracts and closing. If you have any questions, please email me, call me, text me. My name is Robyn Cavallaro. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode. And if you like this one, I want you to check this next one out. I think you may like it.